Okay, we're in Tanya in Perek Yud Ches, page 46 on top and 76 at the bottom. Now, if you remember, just as an introduction to this Perek, all the way at the beginning of Tanya, before Tanya actually began, the Alter Rebbe says that what is the purpose of this? Called the Shar Block. The Alter Rebbe says, what is the purpose of this book? To explain, that is very close and easy for a person in his mouth, in his heart, in action. Okay? And then the Alter Rebbe says, to explain well, how is it possible that Torah Mitzvah could be so easy? The long, short way. So I'm sure everybody remembers what we discussed then. What does it mean when the Alter Rebbe says, I'm explaining it a long, short way? So then we said the famous story in the Gemara with Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. He came to the city. There were two roads to the city. And, he didn't know which road. And the kids told him which road. And he came back. He couldn't go. And he screamed at the kids, why you hacked me at China? So the kid said to him, the road on the right is long, but it's short. The road on the left is short, but long. Meaning, the road on the right was longer in distance, but you eventually got there. The road on the left is short in distance, but there are thorn bushes, there were blockages along the way. Everybody knows, especially if you live in LA, sometimes you go a longer way, but you cut out time because you save traffic. Yeah, it's a longer, short way. It's a longer way, but it's shorter. You get there quicker. That's one explanation. But another explanation we discussed then, what Chassidim explained, is Alter Rebbe Tak explains this pasuk in a long way and in a short way. The first 17 chapters of Tanya that we just finished is called the long way. From chapter 18 until chapter 26, and we're going to see what Alter Rebbe is explaining now, it's called the short way. One is 17 chapters long, and one is from 18 to 25, which is 7 chapters long. Okay? So now, up to now, the Alter Rebbe explains, especially in the last Perek, what we learned, and the Alter Rebbe explains this. Ideally, how is it easy for a Jew to serve Hashem? Very simple. Mind stimulates the heart. And therefore, the mind can create in the heart a tremendous, tremendous love of Hashem, that Hashem should, like he said by the tzaddik, this overflow love, this abundance feeling of burning love to become close to Hashem. In Perek Yud Zayin, Alter Rebbe said, what happens if a person can't get that level? He says, what we learned last few times, that you can at least create intellectual feelings. Meaning, intellectually, I understand that I need to do a mitzvah. It's not in felt open love, but I can stimulate my brain to at least can reveal and create intellectual emotions of Hashem. In Perek Yud Ches, the Alter Rebbe is going to explain what happens if you can't even do that. Your brain doesn't get you to love Hashem even intellectually. The Alter Rebbe says, no problem. You can still do it. It's still very easy. Let's see it inside. Okay, Perek Yud Ches, chapter 18, page 46, on top 76 at the bottom. So he says like this. Tais is Be'er Heitev, to additional explain very well, Milas Ma'id, the word of Ma'id, Shebepasik Hikarev Elecha Dava Ma'id. Until now, the Alter Rebbe explained how it's easy. But the pasuk doesn't only say it's easy. The pasuk says, "Karev elecha dava ma'od." It's very easy. Okay, so now Dr. Rebbe is going to explain how is it very easy, because forget about the open love and fear. That's way beyond this. Even the intellectual stimulation, that intellectually I understand this is what's right to do, it's also not easy to do. And yet the pasuk says, not only is it close, but it's very close. So he says like this. A person needs to be recognized with certainty. He says like this. He asked me, should I think sort of be Hashem? A person has very limited knowledge of God. And he doesn't have the ability in his heart to meditate into the greatness of Hashem. That he should be able to create in himself love and fear. What happens if you're so limited in your knowledge of godliness? You can't even stimulate within yourself an intellectual wanting to be close to Hashem. It just, I don't use the word brainless, but your minimal brain capacity to awaken even intellectual. He says like this, nevertheless, it's still very close and easy for a Jew. Lishmar velasis, to keep, meaning negative mitzvahs, velasis, and to do, call our mitzvahs to Torah, all the mitzvahs of Torah, especially the mitzvah of Talmud Torah keneged kulam, especially the mitzvah of learning Torah, befiv ubelvave mamish in your heart, befiv ubelvave mamish, in his mouth and heart, me'um kedaliva, from the depth of the heart, be'emes la mite betchilu rechin. You can really do it for real, not fake. He said, Dr. Rebbe is now saying a remarkable thing of the greatness of a Jew. Okay? And he says, a Jew, I'm going to first explain it outside and then learn it in. A Jew, by being born a Jew or converting halachically as a Jew, they have a neshama. This neshama is part of Hashem. And therefore, the neshama as an inheritance of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, because of their greatness, they gave over to inheritance, as inheritance, to every single Jewish man, woman, and child, a neshama, which is part of God, that has an innate, essential, hidden love of Hashem. Every Jew loves Hashem. You don't have to create it. The first level of open love, that's something else. Even the intellectual stimulation of love is something I need to stimulate. I have to create it. How do I create it? By meditating into the greatness of Hashem, I awaken the intellectual love to Hashem. That's also work. I'm working to create it. If I don't work, I'm not going to create it. I don't have that love. Comes along Dr. Rebbe now and says, even if you don't have that, it's also good. You know why? Because every Jew, he says, Shi'ava Mesuteres, like 10 lines down. This is the hidden love, Shabalev Klolis Yisro, which exists in the heart of all of Jews. Sheyerusha Lono Me'aviseinu. This neshama is an inheritance from our fathers, forefathers. Okay? Now, therefore, Dr. Rebbe said, you don't have to create love. All you have to do is wake up something that you have already. You don't have to write a new thing. You just have to, look over what you got already. But he says, but before I explain this, I first need to explain something else first. What is the root of this love? What is this love mean? Okay, we have love. What love? What, like, how? What's the function of it? And also, the Eichi Yerushalanu, how this is an inheritance to us. The Echnichlu Ba'agam Dechilu, and how do you have fear of God also in it? Because the Jew needs to serve Hashem like we learned before with the two wings, right, left, Ava, Yira. Okay. Now, the Rebbe is saying like this. Before we learn it inside, let me just recap what Dr. Rebbe is explaining to understand what Dr. Rebbe is going to explain now. People sometimes have a difficulty to create something. That's difficult. But to awaken something that exists within us, that is not hard, because you don't have to create something. You just have to remove the dirt, and it's there. There's a big difference if you have to create a wealth, or the wealth is there. You just have to uncover it. Every Jew, born a Jew, converting a Jew, doesn't matter. Every Jew has a neshama that has this tremendous level of Hashem within them, which includes the fear of Hashem. And therefore, because of that, it's close and easy. Ma'id, very close and easy for a person to serve Hashem. He said, but what does it mean? He says like this. The Inyan is like this. The Medrash says, Ha'aves hein Merkava, that the patriarchs were the Merkava. Merkava literally means a chariot. What does a chariot mean? A chariot represents, that it's completely subservient to the rider. This is based on an interesting pasuk in Parshas Vayera. It says Hashem was talking to Avram Avinu and says, "Vaya'al me'olav Elokim." God, literally, it means God went off him. Vaya'al me'olav Elokim. After this Doimut story, it says Hashem went off Avram Avinu, and the Medrash says from here you see, so to speak, God was riding on Avram Avinu. The Medrash blows it up in that pasuk. What does it mean? And Merkava means the horse has no opinion of its own where it's going. The chariot goes where the rider leads it, which means as follows. Each one of us, in fact, later on in Tanya, the Rebbe says this, a yad hamachalik tzedakah. If a hand puts money into a tzedakah box, at the moment the hand is putting that money into the tzedakah box, our hand at that moment is a merkava of chesed of Atzilus. It is a chariot of God's chesed of Atzilus. Why? Because this hand now is being guided by Hashem to put the money in the pushka. Now this hand is doing exactly what Hashem wants it to do. The problem is, a half a minute later, the hand can do an aveda. The hand can hit somebody. The hand could do something wrong. The patriarchs, the Avis, Hein and Merkava means Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, 24/7, were completely bottled to Hashem in every part of their being, in every part of their existence. And that's what the Medrash says. Ha'avis, Hein and Merkava, they were one entity with Hashem. They were Mamishim Merkava Hashem. And therefore, the Al came therefore, Zachu lahamshich nefesh ruach neshama. The Avis merited to give over to their children. Levneim achareihem ad elam, till the end of the world. Me'es spiris to kedusha, from the 10 levels of kedusha, sharba elamis, which are in the 4 worlds, Tzilis, Bria, Yitzira, Nasiya, L'chol echad ve'echad k'fi madrigaso. Every person based on the level of their neshama, ukfi myself, and based on their actions. Meaning like this. Avram, Yitzchok, and Yaakov gave over to every single Jew for all generations the 10 levels of Kedusha, of Atzilus, into our neshama that's in the body. We all have within us 10 levels of Atzilus within our body. The neshama has those 10 levels of Atzilus. And now they're going to elaborate on now exactly what that means. And he said, the lowest of the lowest neshama still is connected to the 10 attributes of Atzilus. And therefore, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov gave over inheritance to each one of their children for all generations and all time, the 10 levels of Atzilus in the Yiddish neshama. So even before we go further, let's just analyze this for a second in a practical level. Number one, a Jew should never underestimate himself. Meaning, all of us are faced with challenges. Every human being is a challenge. If you don't have challenges, you're not human. You're not normal. Every human being has challenges. Many times, the challenges seem to be very difficult. A person needs to think, and this is mentioned all over the place, but it's fundamentally here. If a Jew realizes that I have a neshama, which is a chelek elokah mimal mamish, a part of God, and in my neshama, there are 10 attributes of Kedusha Vatzilus. If for God there's nothing difficult, there's nothing difficult for me. And therefore, if God can overcome the challenges, so can I. That's one thing. And that's not, by the way, egotistic. It's not, oh, I think I'm great. No, because at the same time, a person should think I should even be great. But a Jew should never underestimate their ability to be able to overcome all challenges in life, whether it's the Yitzhahara or whatever it may be, because we have these 10 powers of the neshama that are rooted, revealed in the neshama, the 10 levels of Atzilus. That's number one. Number two, how we look at another Jew. How do we look at another Jew? Can I say a Jew is hopeless? A Jew is far out, so far out from Yiddishkeit that it's a waste of time? God forbid. Because that Jew, and Dr. Rebbe is going to say it clearly in a minute, that Jew, no matter how low their neshama is, still is connected. In other words, I'll use the terms Dr. Rebbe used. The lowest world is Asiya, right? The lowest level of Asiya is Malchus. Dr. Rebbe says, a neshama that comes from the lowest of the lowest world, Malchus da Asiya. That's the level of their neshama. Nevertheless, Dr. Rebbe says, Malchus da Asiya is connected to Chochmah Asiya, which is connected to the world above, and connected to all the way to Atzilus. The chain of the world we discussed in the past, the chain of the world, Atzilus, Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, is called Hishtalshelus. Hishtalshelus means a shalshelis, a chain. What is a chain? Women should know this better than men. No, not necessarily. You have a chain, okay? You have a golden chained necklace. You have one link into the next link, into the next link, into the next link, into the next link. Okay? When you have a chain, the bottom link is still connected to the top link. It might be 50 links down, but it's still connected. There's still a connection between the lowest of the lowest link and the highest of the highest things. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe is going to say, no matter how low the neshama is, the neshama still is connected to chelek elaka mimal mamish, is mamish connected to that. All you need to do is to figure out a way how to reveal that neshama that is already there. And therefore, we mentioned many times in the key of movements in the world today, which are phenomenal, they use an expression many times. We do kiruv rechokim. We're being closer those that are far. Very nice expression. The Rebbe was adamantly opposed to that. And the Rebbe said clearly, no Jew is ever far from God. You're saying basically that Jew is far and we have to bring them closer. The Rebbe says, no, that's incorrect. A Jew is never far from Hashem. He has a neshama. He has, as an inheritance from Avraham Avinu, as a Yid. He has it from inheritance of Avraham Avinu, all these greatest of levels of the 10 levels of Atzilus. You're calling that Jew far? He's not far. What you have to do is show him how close they are. You have to take away the dust. In other words, the diamond is buried in the ground. There's a diamond there. Sometimes there's a little bit of dust, you blow it away, it goes away. Sometimes you need a little shovel, take away the dirt. Sometimes you need a bigger shovel. Sometimes you need a bulldozer. But you're not creating the diamond. You're not putting the diamond there. You're not even having to create a Avat Hashem intellectual stimulation or emotional stimulation. You don't have to create anything. It's all there. All you have to do is reveal it. And Alter Rebbe says, what he's saying here is revealing that natural instinctive love that every Jew has, that itself is enough to karev elech v'adava ma'od, not only close, it's so close that you could determine. Therefore, number one, we should never underestimate our abilities. Secondly, never ever give up hope on a Jew. Because a Jew has part of Hashem in him. A Jew is connected to Chochmah Atzilus, the highest of the four worlds. Every Jew is connected. And by the way, you didn't have to work for it. Even if you don't know you have it anyway. And that's why we learned that the Alter Rebbe uses the expression here, every Jew has it b'Yerusha, inheritance. There's very interesting laws of inheritance that are relevant to this aspect. Number one, a baby. The Gemara has an expression in this. Tinuk, miyad sheyotza la'avir ha'olam, yeresh ha'kolel. The Gemara says, the second a baby comes out of the mother, he's born in the world, he inherits the entire father. Which means, chas v'shalom, a baby is born, and let's say he's an only child, and a minute later the father dies, he's a multi-billionaire, trillionaire, zillionaire, whatever. That little newborn baby has it all. He doesn't even know what money is. He doesn't even know what father means. He doesn't know anything. He has an inheritance. Inheritance means you don't even have to do anything to get it. You don't have to pick it up and acquire it. You don't have to buy it. Automatically, it's yours. Which means a Jew automatically has it, whether you know about it or not. This baby knows nothing about the inheritance. It's totally irrelevant. Because Yerusha means you don't have to know about it. And there's another aspect of Yerusha that I've emphasized many times. And we mentioned this in the past. If 5 sons inherit, halachically, the Rishonim write, it's not that each one gets a fifth. Halachically, each one gets it all. halachically you inherit, each kid inherits the whole estate of the father. Practically speaking, you can't each one get all of it, so you divide it into five. But conceptually, the din of Yerusha is not like partners. Yerusha means each child inherits all of it. Tachas avistecha, David Amav says in Tehillim. Tachas avistecha yilvanecha. In the place of your father are your children. We are called Banim Atem Lashem Elokeichem. We are God's children because of the greatness of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, being a total Merkava 24/7 for as long as they lived. They were bottled completely for Hashem. Therefore, they merited from Hashem to give over to their children until the end of time this inheritance of a neshama. You can have a great neshama, you can have a low neshama, you can be the lowest of lowest neshama, as we learned many times. You are not less Jewish than Moshe Rabbeinu. You are not a drop less Jewish than Moshe Rabbeinu. Yes, we're less knowledgeable, less emotional, less great, but are we less Jew? No. Why? Because what makes us a Jew? Our neshama makes us a Jew. A Jew has a neshama. A non-Jew doesn't have a neshama. And therefore, the Alter Rebbe says, let's understand where this love comes from. Okay? So he says like this. Every person has this level based on their level of their neshama, and based on their action. And he says, even the lowest of low Jews, a rebellious Jew, when they have, at the time of marital intimacy, they bring down nefesh, the nefesh of Malchus of Asiya, the lowest level of the lowest world of Malchus of Asiya. In other words, minimally, the lowest of the lowest Jew brings down at least a neshama from the lowest level of Kedusha, but nevertheless, it's from the 10 holy spheres in the chain of the 4 worlds. Ikulam is composed of all 10 because all 10 are interconnected. Not only that, even in the Chochmah of that lowest world, in it is Malubish Chochmah, the Malchus of Atzilus. In it is a Chochmah of Malchus of Atzilus. Shebetecha Chochmah d'Atzilus, which in it is the Chochmah of Atzilus. Sheba Meir Eretz Baruch Mam, which is the ultimate revelation of Hashem. In other words, from Chochmah of Malchus, the Alter Rebbe says, of Chochmah of Asiya has in it the Chochmah of Malchus of Atzilus. Bottom line is, the person has this great level of a neshama within them. And therefore, all you need to do is stimulate it and will reveal it. And he said, let me just finish up this point. Like it says, Hashem b'chachma yaser, Hashem with chachma founded earth. Earth is the lowest level, stepped on. But chachma created the earth. V'kulam b'chachma asisa. And everything was done with chachma, even asiya. That this level of godliness, which is in the level of Chachma Vatzil, is in the soul of the person. Whoever he is, it could be the lowest of the low, he still got it. The lowest of the low has this level of godliness from the highest levels of Vatzil. Amir Hashem to be continued. Once again, next Wednesday night there is no class, and the Monday after that week, meaning Wednesday the 28th there's no class, and Monday the 2nd of August. I'm sorry. Yeah, Monday the 2nd of August there's no class. Everybody have a good week. Have a good Shabbos.